Well, there's a great mixed feeling here in Israel. On the one hand, we are so thrilled and excited. Whenever Israel had a path through diplomacy to reach our goals of war and to bring back our hostages, we always choose a diplomatic path. And knowing, in a few hours whether this agreement will be signed and at least the 20 live hostages will be back already this weekend is such a relief and such a joy for our entire nation. But it's also important to understand that on the other side, this is a very difficult time. We need to release hundreds of terrorists with blood on their hands. Some of them murdered innocent children and women and innocent men, and they will be released back into society with no restrictions. Some of them are Hamas operatives who committed the 7th of October atrocities, and the families of those victims who paid a grave price are in a very difficult position. This is a heartbreak for them as well to know that the perpetrators, those monsters, will be released back into society.
And with that in mind, Sharren, with those perpetrators being released back into society, what hope do you have, if any, that this will hold?
Well, it really depends, because right now what Hamas has agreed to is at least the first stage of the deal. The first stage of the deal is the exchange of the hostages in return for those terrorists with blood on their hands. Whether we'll be able to reach the second one that will end the war and will dismantle Hamas hasn't been agreed yet. We are hopeful, but knowing that we're dealing with a terrorist organization, we try to keep our expectation low because we've been disappointed so many times before.
Sharren, I heard you giving a speech at the Conservative Party conference on Sunday at a Conservatives for Israel event. I have to say, I thought your speech sounded almost like a declaration of war on the British government. You said that we had out-of-control immigration, particularly from Islamist communities hostile to our values. And you said, essentially, that we had generated the demonization of Jews through our immigration policies. Now, President Trump is going to get a lot of praise for his hand in this deal. What do you think Keir Starmer's role has been? Do you think that the British government, under this Labour government, has been a useful supporter of this peace deal, or has it, as a British shadow minister told us earlier, been grandstanding instead of helping peace?
So, and I have to say that with a heavy heart, unfortunately, that this current government haven't been productive in helping to create stability and peace. During the last negotiations, such a sensitive time, they have declared with Macron that they will acknowledge and recognize the Palestinian state. Hamas has thanked them. If a terrorist organization like Hamas is going up and thanking you, you must understand you're on the wrong side of history. So this is one thing that actually pushed further any kind of a possibility for peace, for negotiation. It's been very, very difficult. And the other thing is that with this massive immigration coming from Muslim countries from the Middle East, importing with them those traditions of demonizing Israel, demonizing Jews, not assimilating into the society, that has put in danger the Jewish community, but not just. What we've seen in the last 2 years with those hate marches and those celebration of Hamas in your street, people that are waving Hamas's flag. Hamas is a proscribed terrorist organization in the UK. How come there's no enforcement of the law in those marches in the UK?
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private internet access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private internet access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
They have called out publicly to globalize the Intifada, meaning to attack civilians, not just Jew, but any British civilian. What we've seen in Manchester, that vile terrorist attack, that's what it means to globalize the Intifada. And if you don't take actions, real actions against it, it's obvious that the Jewish community will be so vulnerable, will be violently attacked. It is your job not to speak anymore. There has to be actions. And that was my call at the Conference of the Conservatives.
Sharren, we're hearing from President Trump overnight, promising those families of the hostages that are inside Gaza that they will be reunited on Monday. I wonder how you are thinking and feeling about that. Obviously, euphoria in Tel Aviv and in Hostage Square. We've been seeing pictures. We can see them on the screen right now. People hugging, taking photos, celebrating at this news. But of course, those 20 that we believe to be alive, they will be physically, mentally traumatized after 2 years of being held in captivity.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know that from the testimonies and from talks with current hostages that were released. This is a process that can take years or a lifetime. They haven't recovered. The entire country wasn't able yet to start a recovering process because we've been waiting for all of them to come back. So hopefully, once they are back, the entire nation will be able to start a recovering process.
It is the first time in 2 years that Israelis are greeting each other with good morning without a hint of irony. Because do you know what the hostages have in common with football? They're coming home. Israelis have been racked with worry for the last 2 years. 2 years since the hostages were ripped from their beds, abducted from a music festival, taken away from their families, held in tunnels under Gaza, tortured, starved, abused, and after 2 years, that nightmare is about to come to an end. So there is immense relief in Israel now that we have reached an agreement, a ransom, in order to get the hostages out, and hope that there will be phase 2 to end the war for good in a way that ensures that the Gaza Strip is demilitarized and de-radicalized so that this is the last Gaza war.
How does this deal change the psyche of the Hamas terrorists, the Hamas leadership, which wants to destroy the state of Israel?
Hamas has lost this war. The terms of this agreement are Hamas accepting its surrender, accepting that in stage 2, it will have to give up its weapons and it will have to give up power. But you're right, the Hamas terrorist army has not given up its goal of destroying the state of Israel. Hamas is a genuinely genocidal enemy that wants to destroy this country and kill all of us. And Hamas is thinking about the long game. Hamas wants, in the end, to take over the Palestinian Authority, to become the legitimate government of the Palestinians. And it's already receiving a boost in the polls from Britain's recognition of a Palestinian state. It will be boosted in the polls because of the convicted terrorists Israel is going to be forced to release from prison. And it's enjoying popularity, frankly, because it's trashed Israel's global reputation and brought massive protests onto the streets of London. So that is what all world leaders have to be vigilant about. Even if this war ends, Hamas's goal of the destruction of the state of Israel won't have gone away. It's going to shift phases, and we're going to have to be absolutely vigilant so it cannot rear its ugly head.
Now, clearly, the first aim of this peace plan is to get the hostages back, which has been one of the primary reasons for the war in the first place. But you referred there to the second phase, the de-radicalized terror-free zone that Gaza is about to become, or hoped to become. But it's very difficult to see how that will take place without any kind of Israeli oversight over the security situation there. If Hamas, even if Hamas is de-armed, surely other groups will spring up in its place. Do you think it's actually possible that in a year, 2 years' time, Gaza will be some sort of independent strip, or will the Israeli forces still be on the ground there?
The only way that we can get peace between Israel and Gaza is if Gaza is de-radicalized. Not just Hamas destroyed, not just Gaza demilitarized, if the population is de-radicalized. We know from hostages who came out of captivity, they say when they were dragged in on October 7th, civilians around them tried to lynch them, and the Hamas terrorists had to protect them, because that's how people were celebrating and trying to lynch them on the street. The jihadi ideology that meant that Hamas became more popular after October 7th, that ideology that glorifies violence until Israel is destroyed, that has to be eliminated. That's why point one of President Trump's plan is de-radicalization. But you know, for that to happen, the international community needs to understand the destructive role it's been playing by funding UNRWA, for example, the UN agency that runs most of the education in Gaza, whose staff, whose graduates, whose teachers took part in the October 7th massacre, who teach children to glorify terrorism and oppose Israel. If we want real de-radicalization, it has to come through educating the population of Gaza that, you know what, Gaza is their home. They're not going to replace Israel. They're not going to destroy it. If they want peaceful lives, they need to rebuild peaceful lives in Gaza next to Israel. That's the only way peace is really going to happen, through de-radicalization, just like Germany had denazification after the Second World War.